So good evening and welcome to the Coffeyville City Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 28th. We'll take roll at this time.
Mayor Bauer,
Here.
Commissioner Maxon,
Here.
Commissioner York,
Here.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Here.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Here.
So tonight's invocation will be led by Rick Schaefer. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Honored to be here this evening to fill in for Pastor Randy. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for your presence with us every day. And Lord, we ask that you just be ever present here this evening in everything that is said and done. Lord, may it glorify you. And each commissioner, mayor, and each spokesman here tonight, that they just represent you well. And Lord, just bless this meeting and the outcome of it. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's consent agenda, City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Second reading of an ordinance S-20-05 authorizing the execution of a loan agreement through KDHE for the purpose of obtaining a loan from the Kansas Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund for the purpose of financing a public wastewater treatment project. And 2020 appropriation ordinance number AO-20-17 in the amount of $839,572.66. Questions, comments, or amendments to the first three items on the consent agenda?
I don't have too much. This is rather a smaller appropriation ordinance, and of this, $378,000 pertains to our payroll, and almost $81,000 pertains to the sales tax collection that we remit to CRMC.
I just had one question. So it's that time of year, but we see a lot of weed lot mowing on the registers throughout the summer. Can you give me an idea of what we've spent this year so far on weed lot mowing?
So far to date, we're at $35,702 on weed lot mowing.
So that's almost $36,000 that could have been used for other things within the city, but people don't mow their yards, so we have to do it as a city to maintain a decent look as a city. So
We have nuisance cleanups of $17,415.
exactly. Thank you, Stephanie.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move to approve items 1 through 3 of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Mayor Bauer to approve items 1 through 3 of the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye. So the next item is comments from the public. So let me just make something real clear because there's a lot of people here and I know everyone is going to want to speak. So there is an item I believe that everyone is regarding, and it's item number 2 of the public hearing. And we'll take all those questions regarding the CVR expansion at that time. Anyone else is more than welcome to come up and talk about anything else during the public comments. So let me proceed with the public comments. So the public is free to comment on items not listed on the agenda. Please address comments to the commission as a body and be mindful of others who may also wish to speak by limiting your comments to 3 minutes. Also, when you come forward, please state your name and address on all comments that are being made. All right, we'll move into new business. Resolution number R-20-61, a resolution to authorize the purchase of 5 X26P laser taser associated equipment. Chief Quinn Bromley will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening.
Good evening.
In an effort to reduce injury to suspects and officers during arrest, the police department purchased 3 X26 tasers in June of 2004. Almost immediately, the city saw a drastic decrease in workman's compensation claims being filed and the reduction of trips to the emergency room for our officers and prisoners. All electronic devices have a life expectancy. Our X26 tasers have far exceeded their life expectancy many times over, and are so obsolete they are no longer supported by Axon Enterprises, formerly known as Taser International. In 2015, we discovered that our X26 tasers were beginning to fail in the field. The police department immediately replaced those tasers with upgraded X26P tasers. In late 2018, additional X26 tasers failed during deployment. The department analyzed and recommendations from our certified taser instructor concluded almost all X26 tasers were failing nearly in the same order that they had been acquired. We concluded that all X26 tasers needed to be replaced and phased out over the next few years. In 2019, the PD made an emergency purchase of 5 X26P tasers, replacing the non-operational X26 tasers, and implemented a 3-year replacement plan beginning with this year, fiscal year 2020. So I'm here before you today requesting 5 X26P tasers along with the associated equipment for those X26P tasers. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions or comments?
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I was reading through it, and there's a lot of purchasing and wearing out. My question, and I know you're on top of this, so I just want to clear it up, but are we buying the same tasers that keep failing?
Well, they're an upgraded version,
Okay,
but they are essentially the same taser,
okay,
but new electronics. Apparently, over a period of time, as you and the officers test their tasers before they go on duty, so they have a limited lifetime, 8 years, 7 years, and then after that, they begin to fail. We replace batteries. We've sent them in to be rebuilt and refurbished over the years since 2004. But the company said, we no longer carry the parts to refurbish the old units anymore. We won't even take them in on trade. And so we're purchasing the next model up.
okay.
So these were in your budget
Budget.
for this year?
These were budgeted for this year.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
I budgeted $7,500 just in case there was a slight increase, but
Yep.
we came in under that.
Yep.
I had the pleasure of experiencing the taser and how effective that is back when I was a commissioner before. And if you've never had that experience, they're a very effective
I'm gonna
tool.
take your word for it.
Yeah, yeah.
They are effective most of the time.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there are times when people are high on different medications and drugs and they have minimal effect. The last thing we want to do is go hands-on
Yeah.
because brawling ends up injuring everybody.
Mhm. Chief Hummel got a big kick out of tasering me, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, I can tell you,
Yeah,
I can tell you, I did not get a kick out of
No.
being tasered. All the officers at the time had went
Yes,
through the
yeah.
tasering process, so all of us went through it to know what it's like.
Absolutely. Every officer that carries one goes through that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're replacing 5 this year, correct?
We're replacing 5 this year,
And then what's your,
5 next year for 2021,
Okay.
5 for 2022.
okay, so we have 15.
And then it starts over?
And then we start over, or that's the goal?
We should
or-
have, hopefully, if they last like the units that we've had before, we're hoping that we won't even have to go down that road
Okay,
for hopefully at least a decade.
okay,
Good.
all right, good. That's great.
There are no further questions. I'll move to approve Resolution R2061 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner York, seconded by Commissioner Maxon to approve Resolution R-20-61 as presented. Commissioner York,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye,
Mayor Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Public hearing concerning vacation of certain streets and alleys located around CVR, potential expansion. Superintendent of Engineering Thomas Osborne will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Per Kansas statute, KS 12504 governs the vacations of streets and alleyways. CVR did submit to the city clerk a petition requesting First Street between Sycamore and Sunflower, the alley in blocks 1 and 2 of original city edition, and alley of block 1 through 3, Kansas Land Corporation, second edition. Second Street from Pine to Sunflower, the alley in block 5 of Kansas Land Corporation is second edition. Ash Street from First Street to Third Street, Cedar Street adjacent to lot 8, block 2, original city edition. Linden Street from First Street to the south line of lot 8, block 5, Kansas Land Company's second edition. And Pine Street from First Street to Second Street. There was a map included with the publication. This was public. We set the public hearing in the last meeting, the first meeting in August, pursuant to the regulations that's by the state. We've had several meetings with the CVR Energy, which we have Sterling Vance here, which I'll bring up here. He'll present their kind of what their plan is, and then we'll be able to open the public hearing. Just quickly, we met last Tuesday for the planning and zoning meeting. This was brought before them for their recommendation on the street and alley vacations, as well as for the rezoning, driveway width variances, fence height variances, barbed wire fence variance, and so all those were met for last Tuesday. The motion was made at the planning and zoning meeting to essentially what was said was approve these to move them forward to the city commission for making final determination, and it was clearly implied that they wanted the city commission, that it was you guys' choice. They really didn't give one way or the other as far as true recommendations. So I listed, along with the staff report, was a list of comments, concerns from staff, as well as sent to us from the utilities that reside in our easements and streets. So I'd be happy to answer any quick questions, or I can, otherwise I'll turn it over to Sterling Vance with CVR Energy.
You can turn it over, I believe.
So, Sterling?
You got the slides? Okay, good. So my name is Sterling Vance. I am with CVR. I'm the project manager for this project. And thank you for your opportunity to present, and just want to walk everybody through this. If you've already seen this or we need to speed it up, please let me know so I don't waste anybody's time here. So basically what we're looking at here is an artist rendition of what the new building will look like. If you take a good close look, and we'll have more drawings and slides, but the building is essentially 3 different buildings in one large structure. The first one with the glass is offices. The middle one, as you can see, a delivery truck backed up into, is a warehouse, and the far end is maintenance shops. So there are several project objectives, but here are some of the more important ones. One, we really needed to enhance the safety and security of our employees, contractors, and the community. By that, we desire to relocate facilities that are currently within the refinery out to a safer perimeter. And to do that, obviously we have some federal regulatory requirements that we've got to comply with. The second one is to utilize existing designated truck routes. So we want to follow suit with what the city has done, and in particular the northeast and 4th intersection, which is a designated truck route right now. We wanted to follow suit with that. And so the truck deliveries to the new warehouse would turn up Sunflower onto 3rd and then enter the warehouse between Linden and Ash. And I'll have a drawing to show that. Improve the city utilities within the project site. I'll have a slide on that. And then coordinate with all the stakeholders, both city, state, and county, and of course the neighbors. And thank you for your time to hear this. Property ownership, let's start there. everything within the building site is owned by CVR, and that's really the intent of this slide. Green is CVR, purple is the nitrogen fertilizer side of the company, pink is the city, and you can notice Harmon Park and the substation are on either corner of the project site, and white is owned by others. Here's a Google Earth with an outline of the project site, just so you can kind of get your bearings. It's from First all the way down to Third, being the lowest point, and that would be the warehouse access. In the middle of this is the overall project site plan. In the middle is the A, B, and C, or the three different portions of the building. It is one large building with three different functions. If you notice, there's a lot of parking around it to accommodate the employees and contractors that will be working in that building. And then the warehouse is on the south side for access. And over on the far right side, you can see some improvements on the stormwater system, and we'll get to that in a minute. More definition of the site plan, and we'll drill into that a little bit. The city improvements, here's what we're doing within the job site. I can't see that very clear. The sanitary sewer, we are rerouting or replacing approximately 1,300 lineal feet of 18-inch main, which improves the flow hydraulics. We're also removing approximately 2,600 lineal feet of 8-inch main, just eliminating that altogether. And then the net improvements is really hydraulic performance in the area for the main and reduced infiltration in the main and less maintenance for the system as a whole. Water in the area. We're installing approximately 600 lineal feet of 16-inch main and removing about half of that of 8-inch main. The net improvements, again, are improved hydraulics, so the system overall functions better. Stormwater, this is your bigger gains, and this is a real win-win for everybody. Improving the hydraulics and capacity of the existing Duck Creek box culvert. And for those who don't know, I had to look it up myself. Duck Creek is not a creek. It's actually a box culvert, so part of the stormwater. And we're removing approximately 16 acres of the stormwater flow into that box culvert, so pretty sizable. We're improving stormwater quality to the Duck Creek box culvert by detention and inlet filtering. We're also installing a separate stormwater system for the remainder of the site, which is the large detention basin that was off to the right-hand side, which will improve stormwater quality with filtration again. So the net improvements, if you think of just numbers, the total capacity right now is 55 cubic feet per second. That's what's going into your stormwater system right now. When we're done with the job, it's going to be 47, so a net reduction of 8. And if you think of 8 cubic feet per second, that's approximately a 30-inch pipe, so it's pretty sizable. Streets, with the vacations, we are essentially removing 1.2 miles of street maintenance that the city would be obliged to maintain. Meeting, we had a great meeting with Mark Hall and other city utility spokespeople and the police chief and the fire chief on 8/20, and it was a very good meeting. We talked through some of their concerns and came up with some plans on how to resolve those concerns so we can move forward. One key takeaway, especially for fire and police, was how do we access the backside of existing structures? And so we came up with this compromise, which is to improve the existing alleys with gravel, essentially. And we settled on the width of 20 feet. We obviously have to work within the boundaries of the alleyway itself, but approximately 20 feet was based on a fire truck with outriggers. So that's where that came from. And the alleyways improvement is from, let's see, Sycamore over to Second, which is an L-shaped or a 90-degree turn. Why? There's a future detention basin, which is part of that stormwater improvement, would go on that corner. And then down between Pine and Linden would be the other alleyway improvement. As CVR must comply with security, we just wanted to let you guys know what that means. And basically, we must comply with the Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standard, or CFATS, and also the Department of Homeland Security. Those two working in concert really dictate what we can do and how we have to do it. It is not an option, and we're obligated to comply. Here's the job site again, and more specifically the street closures or vacations. So the big question is, why are we asking for this? And the answer is to ensure, or enhance the safety rather, to enhance the safety and security, we need one cohesive site so that we can, one, build it, and two, secure it to meet those federal mandates. Truck route, truck traffic. So honestly, not much changes. The existing truck route is as is. We intend to come off of the northeast and fourth corner onto Sunflower, and here's what changes. Make a turn onto Third and then into the warehouse area between Linden and Ash. That's new. The other new part is vacating First Street. Vacating First Street allows us to put a fence around the entire perimeter and secure one perimeter rather than two or multiple, which makes it easier for us security-wise, and that's really the ultimate goal going forward. That being said, I know there's been some talk about improving 4th Street, Sycamore, etc. The project cannot afford that. We don't have super deep pockets on that. What we can do, Mark Hall, in our brainstorming session, he suggested maybe we partner up and consider KDOT funds and potentially do that together. And that's something I took back to CVR, and there was some interest in talking about that. But that would have to be a separate project on the side, working in parallel. So we did hear, and we want to further that conversation. Last week, there was quite a bit of public comment, and I threw this slide together, and we want you guys to know that we are your neighbors and partners as well. First thing that's very near and dear to us is safety first. And I know we say that all the time, but we really mean it. It's very personal. So last week I heard a lot of comments about kids walking to and from the park, and there really is no sidewalks out there right now. There really is no parking out there right now. And those two things were made mention last week. Therefore, we went back with the Ross Group, which is our engineering firm who's managing the project, and we threw this together. Basically, there's an existing sidewalk south of 3rd that we propose that we would continue that sidewalk and put in a safe pedestrian crossing. And then add parking, and we propose the parking be at the 45 or 30-degree angle to make it a little more safe coming in and out, and up to 10 cars that we can improve that area for parking with proper signage. So we heard comments last week, and we took action to improve that, because that made a difference to us. That's really the presentation. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to hear the public comment, and
Yep.
then that'll probably bring up some questions.
Okay.
So we'll open it up to public comment at this time. Name and address, please.
My name is Eddie Cosper. I think you know who I am, but I,
Eddie, what's your address, sir?
501 East 6.
Yeah, the only reason we ask is we have to put this all in our minutes.
All right.
So
that's
if you
fine.
mention it ahead of time, it makes it a whole lot easier.
I'm fine.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to object to this proposal in its current form. The property that we're talking about is zone residential, correct? And is that for a reason? We have friends and neighbors who live here, worship here, kids play here, and myself, I retired here. And the very thought of a warehouse coming up in the middle of my backyard, it should shake your soul. It's a residence for a reason. When CVR purchased that property, they knew it was residential. Keep it that way. We still live there. We still pay our taxes. We don't have much value of our homes because you can see what they're doing to everybody else. So when they come to us and they put this warehouse in, what's going to happen to our property? It's going to be even lower. Harmon Park. We don't own any helicopters, all right? This fence that's coming along with this warehouse has 7-foot fence with barbed wire, all right? It wiggles around from Sycamore down to 3rd. It comes down to Ash. Ash is the west edge of Harmon Park, all right? Then it goes back north to 2nd Street, back over to Sunflower, okay? That's the north edge of Harmon Park. That's the west side of Harmon Park.
Yes.
And then we got Sunflower. We already know Sunflower's there. And now he comes in and he says, we're gonna build a truck route from 4th Street west, north on Sunflower, up 3rd Street. That'd be a truck stop on both sides of the park, a truck route on both sides of the park, and then you have fence, 7-foot fence with barbed wire on the north and west side. We don't have any helicopters over there. Take them kids to the park. I go to the park, whatever you want to do to the park, go out there and sit, whatever. All I'm saying is that just tell them no. Can you tell them no? Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Homer, and I'm from 514 East 5th, and I feel the same way about the truck route. Like I say, a lot of us, like Miss Trussell, have walked them streets for over 65, 70 years without a fence, without anything to stop her from cutting across the grass to go to Speedy Mart. Kids cutting across the grass because from anywhere in that whole area, there's not one full block of a sidewalk. So our kids can't ride a skateboard or skate. Our grandparents can't roll wheelchairs. Fencing us in is like prison. We already in prison, as far as some people's concerned about Coffeyville. To me, it's not a prison. It's not a place where you need to put fences and trucks and diesel and the smell of it, because when you're out there playing basketball, when your kids is out there running around in the park, they're running full throttle. We've been breathing this air all our lives. We haven't got compensated for it. All we have got is death, cancer, missing loved ones. This fence, it ain't gonna do us no good. It's almost like you said, it's like Trump wanted to put up that wall. It's the same effect. We have the same effect, and we're not Mexicans, we're not Spanish, we don't live in Mexico. should put up no fence somewhere except in your yard. But y'all putting that fence up in our backyard, and as y'all can see, there's several backyards here. There used to be no backyards here that y'all could see a lot of the times that I've came up into these milkings. But thank God that these backyards now are being affected. Because without them, there is no backyards.
Thank you, Mr. Homer. Next.
My name's William Kendall. I live at 1521 Willow Street. I'm here on behalf of myself as living over there for many years as a child. And I'm here on behalf of my potential constituents as I'm a Kansas House of Representative candidate. Paul Bauer, you once said, if we keep doing the same things, it will be the same that we got. Justin Doan, in your second term candidacy letter, you said, the single most important issue in Coffeyville is further development of housing. Adequate housing in the future should be priority. Robert York, you served 2003 to 07 on this commission. In your candidacy letter, you talk about declining population and opportunities here in Coffeyville. Tracy Maxson, you said roads, buildings, and homes have fallen to disrepair in your candidacy letter. And Anna Marie Van Oster, upon my research, I couldn't find nothing about your candidacy. With this being said, I lived over in the east side for years. I haven't seen a lot of positive changes from any of your guys' views. However, I continue to see decrease in population as well as limited job growth. If we let rezoning and road closures pass, it will hurt tremendously for the residents of Coffeyville, as there is already a circulation of a formal letter of 6 to 12 months of relocation for residents of the apartments on East 2nd and East 3rd Street. That is going to displace hundreds of people, including adults and children with limited resources already. Low-income housing is already in short demand here in Coffeyville, and CVR has already purchased approximately 25% of Coffeyville since the flood of 07. A woman spoke last week at the city meeting about the city not letting her rebuild after 07 flood because she was in deemed a flood zone. In turn, that forced a lot of residents to sell out to CVR. My family lost a childhood home in that flood. I am questioning your integrity, morals, and values for displacing humans out of homes and a park closure that would put so many children without a park or playground to an industrial and refinery that employs many from outside of Coffeyville and even Kansas. If you let this rezoning and road closures pass, then your candidacy letters would be untrue. And we residents need to hold you all accountable for your decisions. If you can't respect your constituents' livelihood to not pass the matter at hand today, then I ask that you all resign from the City Commission Board, including the mayor and the city manager, so we can get regular working class people in office that understand values, integrity, and empathy of other situations. It's sad you would even think about letting them rezone and close off roads so they can continue to take over the east side of Coffeyville. Don't let them take childhood memories away and displace hundreds of people with nowhere to go. I ask that the rezoning and road closures not be passed today, especially with it deemed a flood zone to past residents that was affected by the flood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor,
Yes.
I did remind that because of the overflow
Mhm.
that we have, they're watching out here the meeting,
Yes.
and we will ask outside if there is additional comment.
Okay, good, thank you.
Hi, my name is Talitha Dean. I'm 2702 Midland Avenue. I come to speak on behalf of the residents and the children here in Coffeyville, Kansas. For years, I've sat back and I've watched a refinery cause health problems, displacing homes. You know, and I just don't understand. When CVR says they don't have the money to do the things that needs to be done, I don't know why. Because the man that owns CVR is a billionaire. And I did some research, and I looked at the other counties where CVR was involved, and I read a story about a community that was displaced because they wanted to expand their refinery. And they put people out of their homes that were 83 years of age, families that had lived in their homes for years, all because they wanted to expand. Coffeyville is failing the citizens here. These children have nothing to do. We have empty buildings, but yet we allowed CVR to continue to expand. There are health risks here, and they know it. So in a way, it's like bullying the residents of the community. I look at the church that I attend, they're wanting to put this big old building across the street from where our church is located. That's bullying. You know, and really it needs to be stopped. For years, we have watched the refinery come in and destroy the community. And it's like I stated last week, how many of you live on the east side of town? None of you can say that. I grew up on the east side of town. I know the damage that it has done. You know, I know the fines that the refinery was given for not following EPA and having to pay settlements because they were not following. I did the history and read up like some of the refineries owned by the CEO of the company, where they tried to get certain counties and towns to exempt them from paying taxes. So in addressing that, when the city of Coffeyville says they have no money, I don't know where the money's going. If they're paying taxes, Coffeyville should be doing pretty good. There's no reason for Coffeyville to be in this state of mind. And it's the people, the residents of this town that's suffering. And to offer them what they want to give them so they can move, it's an insult. It really is. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mic's open.
My name is Philip Crawford. My address is 613 West 5th Street. Y'all excuse me, I've been gone for years. I came back to Coffeyville, and CVR didn't exist in its current state when I left. And I see this big conglomerate privatizing everything, our whole town. Like, it's trying to take everything. It bought all this residential property, and now it wants to get it rezoned. But the reality of it is, in the 12 years I've been gone from Coffeyville, you mean 12 years worth of billion-dollar taxes can't fix Coffeyville? Like, CVR is offering 30-degree parking at Harmon Park. We've been parking at Harmon Park at 30 degrees since I was a kid playing ball at Harmon Park. They're offering crosswalks. We've had crosswalks. They're not offering a solution for the citizens of Coffeyville. This is the reality. They want to take, and never give. There's nothing being given by CVR in return, because guess what? When those bigwigs come in here making six figures at CVR, they're not going to move to Coffeyville, and they're not going to fix the east side. CVR has done nothing but absolutely destroy Coffeyville in and of its shape. And they want to talk about fixing water runoff. Well, guess what? If you decrease water runoff in Coffeyville, I don't know if anybody knows, Coffeyville floods. So you decrease the runoff, it's going to flood even more. Like, that's not really a solution. There has to be a real solution, and they're talking about, oh, it has to be this one giant building. It's not going to be one giant building, because it still exists in its form right now, so obviously it can't be one giant building. I've heard a lot of good talk, but I haven't heard about the amount of pollution it's going to bring in, about the amount of truck drivers that are coming through here, tearing up our roads. Our roads will bend your rims right now as they are. CVR doesn't care. CVR doesn't care that you, the average blue-collar working person here in Coffeyville, cannot just go drop $1,200 on a set of rims because all the semis came through for CVR and screwed up all the roads. I am strongly against it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody doing? I'm Mario Show. I'm 704 West 3rd, Coffeyville, Kansas. I'm gonna try to follow up these guys right here. I was gonna write some stuff down, but I just kind of decided I'm just gonna wing it and just kind of speak from the heart. I'm against this rezoning thing for several different reasons or whatever. One thing I'm against it is because it's directly connected to those apartment complex and where families are gonna have to be replaced. Another reason is because the zoning that they're trying to do behind the church and behind the apartments or whatever, that's going to take the property value of people's property down. So whatever negotiations or whatever they're doing with the churches now, whatever they're going to try to give them, if they're not going to get it, they're going to get it even lower now if they put that fence there. I mean, that's just logical. As soon as they put that fence there, it's going to be a snowball effect to where they're going to keep coming with south, buying properties at low cost. Like my guy said earlier, they bought these properties from people who were in poverty. They threw some money at them after the flood, told them that they couldn't rebuild there. Then all of a sudden, they're building there. So, I mean, I don't know what's really going on, you know. The park, that's a real big issue for me. I still take my kids there. I live on the west side of town, but I frequently go to the east side to visit my grandfather and several other family members and friends. I take my kids to that park, and they're going to bring a truck right directly past the park and then two up there by the apartment complexes and just turn it to a field. It's just not safe. You know what I mean? So I'm asking you guys to make the best decision, and that's not to have this. And I had one more thing to add last, and Tracy, Mr. Maxson, nothing personal. I've heard nothing but great stuff about you. But I would like for you to abstain. Because due to the fact that you work at CVR, that's a conflict of interest. And I also don't want you to affect your business.
Right.
You do good business here, we want to keep you here, and I don't want that to affect you either way.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
planning on abstaining. That's why I haven't been part of the discussion.
Yeah, I don't, you work there, you know, it's going to be on public record, so. That's all I got to add. I'm against it, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Zanville Tate, and I live at 702 East 4th Street here in Coffeyville. And I'm strongly opposed to this rezoning issue. The bottom line is, you know, we're being pushed out because every time you give them an inch, this is 2020, well, in 2030, they may want more. Okay, well, when that comes up, it's gonna make it easy for them to get it because now they've lowered our property value to the point where we'll have to sell out for nothing. Because the closer that gets to our property, the lower our property value gets, and it's just senseless. At what point do the citizens of this town matter? There's got to be a point where the people that live and populate that area matter. And if we don't matter, I mean, what's the point of having this committee? Because the whole purpose of everybody being here is for the betterment of Coffeyville, Kansas. And if we can't make that so where the people that live and populate that area, then just kick us all out. Because this is wrong. We should stand for something. I'll put it to you like this. We have the people that are in this room tonight, I believe, are the ones that are going to make the decision of whether this is approved or disapproved. Okay? Well, I'm going to ask you, sometimes you have to walk in another man's shoes for a minute. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you that is responsible for making the decision to step into our shoes for just a little bit. Live where we live and consider what it is that we're having to go through, because I'm sure most of you that are making decisions don't populate the area that's getting ready to be rezoned. So I'm just asking you, consider, just try being us for a little while and ask yourself, if that was me in their shoes, would I want that fence in my backyard?
Thank you.
That's all I've got to
Thank
say.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Mr. Jenkins.
William Jenkins, 304 East John Street. I represent Enterprise Lodge number 70 and also Sardis First Baptist Church. We oppose this rezoning because we know that our property values will go down on that side of town as soon as you throw up these fences, whatever you want to do. And we want to say one thing to the commission, is that this is not nothing new. We know that there'll be marginalized people. I think I sent a letter and everything to the commission so they could see exactly what I was talking about, historically speaking, and the way that things are going. The refinery will soon have all that property over there at a cheap price. That's what I believe. This is not my first rodeo with them. We did 10 or 15 years ago, we had another battle with them. So I'm just saying that we oppose it. We need somebody to either talk to the people before. It seems to me like this really came all of a sudden. It did not come out, it's just they didn't talk to the people over there, they just talked to whomever. And I think that we need to talk to the residents over there as well as that church. That church is important. It's been there 140-something years. The lodge has been there over 110. And then all of a sudden, the property values will be going down with this rezoning. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
To the commission, I'm Pastor Gary Wilson. I live at 604 East 4th Street. The fence that you're talking about, putting up after the rezoning, is going to be in my backyard. It's already difficult when you look in your backyard and all you can see is the refinery. And the property that the church owns at 604 East 4th Street, you're going to devalue that property. And we've been told that at this time that Coffeyville Resources don't have the money to buy our property. Well, we well understand with the devaluing of our property, who's going to want to come in and buy a house with Coffeyville Resources fence in their backyard? And I'm saying literally in the backyard. So where the apartment fence is now is where you're saying you're going to put up a 6-foot fence with barbed wire across the top of it. And I think it's a disgrace for you as commissioners to continue to allow them to continue to push the people out. It would be wonderful if they could come up with a better plan in the city to where they can, where the city could really benefit from it. I realize and I understand it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but where is that money really helping us? I understand they don't pay taxes like most of us pay taxes. And I'm asking you, as the leaders of this city, to consider this. You're pushing people out, you're devaluing the property. And I think that you ought to really take a good look at either having them come up with a better solution. You don't have very many homes that the people that you're shoving out can go to, and especially they would have to downgrade instead of upgrade. So I'm asking you to consider passing this zoning. And as Mr. Tate said, I think that you ought to consider the little guy, because I know none of you live, and I've never seen any of you in that area. So I don't think that any of you can understand the plight that we would have to suffer because of Coffee Resources shoving us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor Wilson,
Yes.
you don't have to reveal anything here, but it's my understanding, you represent Sardis, correct?
No, I represent St. John Church of Faith.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is the pastor
our
for Sardis here?
parsonage,
All
our
right.
parsonage is at St. John Church of Faith parsonage is at 602 West Martin.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Linda Follett, 2019 and a half South Walnut. And my concern on this is the displacement of the people in the apartments. They've already started to get notices that they have to be out in 6 months. And according to the managers, the rest will have to be out in either 9 months or 12 months. With the units that are being sold or have been sold, I don't know where the sale is, but it's in the process. This will displace 88 families just in the apartments. What are we going to do about that in Coffeyville? 88 units. Now, I've spent some time doing the figures, and there's only one apartment building that I couldn't contact, and that was Coffeyville Gardens. But for a person that's in one of those apartments that has to move, if they're under 62 years old, there's going to be very few units open to them. The majority of our apartment buildings in Coffeyville will only rent to you if you're 62 or over or disabled. So what's the 35-year-old mother of 2 kids going to do? I don't know what the answer is, but we better think of something as a city, because this is a major problem. And it's not waiting until you make a decision on this. This is already happening. And I don't have the answer, but like I said, we better, as a city, come up with something, because we got a big problem on our hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Follett.
Good evening to the Commissioner, I'm Pastor Armigen Walker of 414 East Sardis, East 2nd. I had a young lady stop me Sunday that lives in the apartments, and she said she's always lived there, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. We're in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of other things going on, Black Lives Matter, and I just can't believe that we're here tonight dealing with a building. We're actually spending our time on trying to figure out how we're going to oust people to build a building when I think we have things that's more important. As a pastor, my job is to deal with food, families, health, mental issues, and things of that nature. And this building has caused that, people to be affected in those areas just by the mentioning of this building going up. There's a lot of traffic, truck traffic on First Street, and I know they say one thing, but it's really not. The one young man a few weeks ago, there's a lot of traffic in that area that I'm not for sure if it should be there. I do have cameras, and you're welcome to the church's cameras to look at that traffic that's going on right now. But I'm just saying in behalf of Sardis that we are totally against this. Many lives are affected. Sardis has been there over 40-something years, and I was brought to Coffeyville to pastor people who have lived here. They love their community. They support their community, and I'm just asking you if you would consider them tonight. I think I have 1 minute left, so I'm going to be a Baptist preacher. God, gracious Father, as we come, we thank you tonight, and we ask, Lord, that you look on each and every commissioner tonight.
and that you would touch their heart and strengthen them in the way, amen, that's mindful of people's lives. I understand progression. I understand things to better the community. But, amen, if it brings this much confusion, I don't see you in it. And so tonight, Lord, I ask that you would bless each and every one of us to come together as a body of people, amen, to make the right decisions, that we don't have to go back and like they are in Tulsa trying to find lives of loved ones and different people who have went through things, trying to figure out what went on years ago. But we'll do what's right tonight, amen, that people can live their lives during a difficult time that we're facing now as a country. We love you and we thank you for all your blessings. Bless each commissioner here tonight, amen, as only you can, and we'll forever praise your name. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you for the prayer, Pastor. Yes.
I'm Carlos Walker, 1646 County Road 5500. This is a fact. This is a matter that's more than Black Lives Matter. Latino lives matter. White lives matter. And if it really matters, when these people go looking for someplace else to live, on that application, the reference is going to be, where did you live last? 3rd Street Apartments. Immediately, let's face it, immediately, they won't get approved for housing. This gentleman talked about safety. It seems to me like if you're talking about safety, you do something about the truck traffic, you do something about that black smoke building up into the atmosphere. And furthermore, it looks to me like the only ones that's going to be safe is the people in administration, the maintenance people, and the warehouse people. What about the people that's actually running the plant? Most of those buildings out there are less than 20 years old. But all of a sudden, we're going to have new buildings. The new buildings and everything is probably to promote sale. It's probably something that if it's going to be marketable, then it needs to have this, and that. If you're so big on letting them expand or whatever, I'm telling you to vote no. If you're so big on letting them expand, let them buy it all and give a fair price. That's how you do it. Mr. Maxson, you work for the refinery. You're going to abstain probably from voting. But who's to say and who's to know, and it doesn't really matter. You've done your homework. You've taken your poll. You know who's who stands for what. But I'm telling you tonight, everybody be their own person. Stand on your own 2 feet and vote for what's right. Amen. And what you're doing now is not right. If a yes vote is another urban renewal, a yes vote is another flood. We displaced all them people. What happened? Where they at? We lost 300 housetops. Some of these people that live on the east side now live in houses, but they still pay some kind of taxes. The tax base is set for X number of dollars. They still pay some type of taxes. The refinery buys their houses. The realtors and everybody in town know that they got this little bitty refinery check. We move out of a house that's paid for. It ain't much, but it's paid for. We go across the tracks. Can't go east. Got to go across the tracks. We go across the tracks, and the realtors and everybody on that side of town is grinning. They know you got X number of dollars. I'm 60-some years old. Who wants to move out of a house that's paid for and then go over here and pay more, wind up with a note, and pay more taxes? Who wants to do that? You don't want to do it. So why should you expect my neighborhood? And when I say my neighborhood, I'm not talking about just black people. There's Latino people over there. There's white people. And because of who they are, we all may be considered the same. Okay? Where we live at, your zip code tells a lot about where you live. Your zip code tells a lot about where you live at. So they're all considered the same. Vote no. Be men and be women and vote no.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Eva Rat Green. I live at 3612 West 4th Street here in Coffeyville, Kansas. I lived over in those apartments that are currently home to a lot of my family friends, kids that I grew up with that are now adults. I am 52. A lot of them are still there, mainly because the lifestyles didn't change. They weren't able to get a job. Coffeyville doesn't offer any jobs. You have to either make your own or do your hustle or whatever your thing is. I am basically speaking on the behalf of the young women and the young men that are my age that live over there, that lived there 26 years ago when I did. There is no place in Coffeyville that you can go to and rent a proper home that's in a decent condition that I would recommend. I got blessed. I got lucky. I had a family member that left me a home. Nobody's going to say, you want to go get a new house? But we'll put you in one and we'll set you up. Nobody's going to talk to the pastor and say, you need a home with the ADA equipment in it. That's not going to happen. The resources is good. I work out there every turnaround that comes. But what I'm saying is, the more they come this way, the more they get to that road. It just keeps on going around. They already done redid all that to make the big trucks turn in there fine. I had a CDL. I know what we have to do that. We're talking about my grandbabies growing up here. Do I want them to grow up here? For what? It's nothing. A refinery is all you hear about. Now, I'm not going to discuss what I know because I worked inside the refinery. But I'm saying that taking away the homes of these people that are here tonight, taking away the streets and the corners, blocking it off and making a big cage, it's not what's happening. And you want us to reawaken, you want us to shop here, you want us to come back here, you want us to be here, you want us to help pay taxes, the water taxes. Come on, y'all, give us something that's worthwhile. I'd rather step across the state line and stay in Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Griffin Walker, resident 603 East 5th. I've been a long member of the Coffeyville community numerous times. The two things I want to touch on is safety was one, and then the elderly population on the east side of Coffeyville. A lot of the individuals, I'll start out with the elderly population because to me that's true in my upbringing, and that's what's brought me this far. I lived on the east side for until I was in the sixth grade, and that side of town brought a lot into me that made me a standalone person. It wasn't the west side, it wasn't the country, it was the east side of Coffeyville. I got to play basketball there numerous times and play tough competition. The elderly individuals were there, so I'm going to be there for them today. If we make this investment today, you're going to have elderly population that's displaced at 60-something, at a medium age of 60 years old. They're going to have to buy a new house, right alone they can barely pay their bills now. Now they're going to have to start over and pay their bills at 60-something years old. The impact of that goes to their grandchildren that says Coffeyville was not there for me. When you impact someone's grown, elderly individual, you have just told me, I do not want to live in Coffeyville. CVR Energy, if we look at the stats that has been promoted in Bartlesville alone, ConocoPhillips is broadcasted all over that town, stamped and approved. They give and they give. And it's probably not even enough for ConocoPhillips. But when they give to help their community, the community supports them. And for some reason here today, we're here today because people don't feel like they've been given enough in Coffeyville. So my favorite movie is Yellowstone. And that property on the east side of town is our property. We've owned it. We pay taxes on it. And when John Dutton sat on a rock and he said to his dad, he said, Dad, they're coming for us. And he said, son, don't give it away. And you know what John Dutton told the corporate operations? He said, I'd rather lose it. So whatever they're offering on the table, I would rather you give the people the power and say, hey, you know what? You negotiate with the people. And because they're the people who's going to be here. There's not new people moving in. Half the people that work at the refinery don't live in Coffeyville. Mr. Maxson, you live here, I appreciate that. But when I work at a place, they say you got to live in a certain mile radius. The city of Coffeyville says you have to live in a certain mile radius. Yep. So if we're going to promote growth in Coffeyville, then you got to hold other people accountable because they haven't given you enough to say, I'm going to hand this over to you. And I feel the first step in that is saying, you know what, you negotiate with the people. We have gentlemen that, Mr. Tate, he lives in my old house, and you know what, if I lived there, I would have to stand up today and be so angry. And I understand it because I could have been there in his shoes too. And I'm saying to you today, he's been here, he's worked here, he's paid his taxes, he's kept his yard cut, he's followed all the rules. That's all you guys have. That's all you have on the east side of Coffeyville. You cannot change that environment because of a sewer system. You cannot change it from the runoff. The only thing you got is what you got now. And it ain't got no better in years. So me as a person, I say we lose it. If we lose it, we lose it. But if we win it, it's even more victorious. Because I think we can win this one if we stand up. We got to grow somewhere and we got to start somewhere. And I'd rather start flat on my back. And I can get up just as fast. So I vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Griffin.
Hello, my name is Chelsea Martin, and I live at 508 Westwood Drive. And I am a school counselor at the elementary school, and I'm an advocate for all my students, and so I am here today on behalf of them. I promised a group of young boys that were talking to me very worried about overhearing their families talk about having to relocate. So when I told them about this meeting, they wanted to know what it was about, and I told them kind of how the structure of the city works and what we as community members can do to help. And so I promised them that I would be here today so that I could voice what they told me as they're worried about what is getting ready to happen. And we talked a lot about just being scared and worried about their families and where they were going to go. One little boy in particular told me, he said, Mrs. Martin, I'm worried. There's a lot going on right now, and I just don't understand why, he said, a big man in a big office would want to come here and take away where I live. He said, I know my mom's worried because we don't have anywhere to go. And I'm not from this community, but this community is now my home, and I know that we have a lot of worry with the pandemic anyways, and these students don't deserve or should have to worry about where they're going to go or where they're going to live. And I want this community to grow, and I want both parties to come to a conclusion that works for everyone, and specifically come together as a community and do that together and not apart. And that is one thing that I told them, that no matter what, we're going to come together as a community and a team, and we teach them that knowledge is power. And so I want their families to know that they have support, and that as their school counselor, I support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Marcus Kassler, 502 Overlook. Today, last week I came here and spoke out against this, and I still am. I think this community cares and has a lot of pride, but I want to talk about investment. I want to talk about what each and every one of these people have invested in this community. They have invested their livelihoods, they've invested their health. You got people who have who invested in this community, who have started a Boys and Girls Club and got kids active in this community. You have one who started his own business. You have people who care about this community and invested it. I ask you, what has CVR invested in this community? Years ago, there was a flood, and oil destroyed the east side. All we got was oops, my bad. Along the way, they've helped out with Fair and Rodeo. They've donated some money to help get a park over and park equipment. And that's great and that's grand. They had the money to do stuff. But I guarantee you, most of those people don't live here. They do not reside in Coffeyville. They do not pay the tax money that we pay on a yearly basis for property taxes and that mill levy that keeps on going up. I love this community, and it's time we stand for it. If they wanted to have nice front offices and stuff. There are some abandoned buildings downtown that they could buy. They could buy the old Brown building. If they wanted to, they could buy the old terminal building. They have the money. They could fix it up and build and take some of these old downtown buildings that are old and outdated and needed people. They could do that. They have the money. But it's up to them to decide that. They don't need all that property over there. You're going to fence off Harmon, almost two sides of Harmon Park. Why? Why do you need to, that place has been established, and I guarantee you that if they can get their hands on that property too, they would. They don't care about heritage. Greed is good. And that's what runs places. Before I got on commission, I sat on the board of planning and zoning, and they asked for the green spaces. People begged and pleaded them not to. And it was a close vote. I voted no. We need to stand up to them. I understand money, and I understand business, but we're talking about people and citizens' lives. People don't want to have to move. People don't want to have to have 7-foot tall fences with razor. That's like living next to a jail. No one wants to live next to a jail. I don't want my kids playing next to something like that. And the smoke that comes out of there, you can see all the way clear across Coffeyville over to Edna. We don't need this in our town. I understand progress, but progress needs to be halted sometime to save the people. We deserve better. I know you guys were elected. I've sat in your guys' seats, and it's not a fun spot. It is not. And you guys don't get paid well enough, and I know that. This is basically volunteer with a little bit of technology thrown in, and it's not fun to sit in your seat and hear this, but you need to listen to the people and take to heart what they are saying, because these people are the ones that voted you guys in. And the vote needs to be stronger next time. 10% of the vote of Coffeyville is not enough. We need to do better. We need to have leaders in here who are not just business, but of the people. This town deserves better. It's been Coffeyville strong from the Dalton raid to the floods. And it's going to keep on being Coffeyville strong, but it needs to be Coffeyville strong, starting with leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Come on in. You're fine.
You're up.
Your turn.
Excuse me. I'm Hortense Mason. My resident is 1012 West 5th Street. And I'm like everybody else. I'm opposed to this. I do have property over there. And I think that the CVR has enough money that they can put their facility somewhere else. Again, it's a Black Lives Matters. And the black people that live over there deserve better. Now, again, we talked about them bullying us. They told me I couldn't build on my property because it was a floodplain, but you're going to let CVR build a building. And I thought it was an administration building, but now we're talking about laying down equipment in a warehouse, cutting off streets. First Street is a main street in a black neighborhood, just like 8th Street. So you close down our street from Sycamore to Sunflower. Then you close the streets in between. So that's just like cutting off our neighborhood. So I think you should allow them to build their building. Again, I said they have property over there on First and Union all the way back to the tree dump. You know, they can use that property. They can build something over there. We talked about Sycamore Street time and time again that they don't have the money. But I have a notice from the apartments. It's not rocket science that somebody's buying those apartments. And that's talking about deep pockets. Sardis Church. That's a house of God. They need to build them a new church. So these people just are bullying, tearing up our neighborhood. And we're asking you not to let them do that. The housing situation is sad. Like the lady said, most of our apartments here are for people 60 and older. What about the young women, like Everett said, that have kids? Where are they going to go? We have limited. I see you're going to try to start a housing authority. I mean, how come Coffeyville doesn't have a housing authority? They could have helped out a lot of people in this situation. Do you plan to build more housing in Coffeyville? Where are these people going to live? They have 6 months to a year. So do you plan on building them more housing? Okay. So we're asking you that you not let them tear up our neighborhood. Your neighbor puts up a 6-foot fence with barbed wire, says, I don't like you, I don't trust you. It's none of your business what's going on my property. So think about that, because I have to sit on my property and look at it. So I'm asking you not to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I know we have a bit of a delay on the outside. I think Chris had said it was like 3 to 4 seconds, so.
I just like to say one more thing. Need we say more? There should be nothing else to be said. It's all kind of different people in here. I know every time I've come up in here, I've embarrassed my mom. That's it. I haven't embarrassed myself. I've embarrassed Barbara Holman. I'd like to apologize to her for the passion that I put in talking to you people. When I mean you people, I mean the city of Coffeyville. But when you got this many different age groups, people, friends, if it wasn't for Clint Perkins, my attitude would be completely different right now. I'd be here yelling and cussing. But out of nowhere, like Clint said, it feel like God put him in my path at the casino. And he messed up my money. No. But I feel like he put me there so I could see two different sides of the situation. Because we all up in here so uptight and so wound up and so mad at each other. There's no reason. It's not his fault. He didn't let the oil out. It ain't our fault. We didn't want the oil in. So what are we going to do to make this right? Are we going to divide our town? Is this an all lives matter? Because our lives matter, y'all lives matter. There's nobody in here different than nobody else. But what we got to do is figure out how to put a smile. When you hear a reverend say he's confused, well, what the hell am I? If the reverend is confused and he's saved and his mind is sane and he's right and he's in tune with the Lord, if he's confused, a reverend, what are we? We don't even stand a chance. I know I don't stand a chance. There's no way I can come up here and embarrass my mother no more about something that I can't stop cussing about. Like you said, y'all don't hear me when I'm cussing. You feel me, but you don't hear me. And to me, I'd rather you feel me, feel this passion, feel this anger, feel my community. Because without these people right here, you can ask that chief of police right there. I'd have been in jail a long time ago. Probably be dead a long time ago. Probably wouldn't be a national champion. Probably wouldn't be your 1995 winner homecoming king. I'd have been gone a long time ago, like the rest of my homeboys that stepped out of 7th grade at 13 years old to sell dope. 7th grade. When I came back from the boys' home, all my friends was gone, selling dope, except maybe 5 or 6 of us was left. Like he said, I told the city manager this. I didn't get a chance to talk to him today because he was being quite the ass, because he didn't have time to talk to me on his lunch break. He took another talk, which was fine with me because I'm at peace with myself about this refinery now. But like I told him a long time ago, they are the Dalton gang. What I tell you are? The town folk. This is your town folk. You can say all you want. There's a whole bunch of, all these people got kids, nephews, nieces, cousins, way worse than me. Period. All we need is some help. I talked to that man early this morning before we came up in here. And I'd like to say I apologize. I want to thank the refinery for expanding here, helping here. It is going to benefit us. But the way your plan is for us, it's not going to benefit us. They can't put a plan together that benefits the East Side because they are not the East Side. They are Coffeyville. This is your plan. The reverence. It starts in the church. We are black people. We are God-fearing people. For us, for my mama, it starts in the church. Everything outside of the church is nonsense. To my mama, alcohol is a drug. Period. So if we don't get this together, if we don't get these reverends, if we don't get these chief of police, if we don't get some of these people to come together and all talk, not just the city manager in his office with his buddy, the engineer. No, this kid ain't even from here. He's a kid. He's probably not even 35 years old. He don't know nothing about where nothing is in Coffeyville. I could take him out there right now and get him lost. In probably 50 different spots. On the east side. I ride where the police don't ride, on the east side. And all the empty parking lots. All them empty lots, we just ride those streets because ain't nobody back there. Help our people so we can help ourselves, so y'all can help us and we can help like it used to be. Because back in the day, it was lovely to be here. We had teen oasis, we had the skating rinks, we had places where black people wasn't supposed to be, and we had places where white people wasn't supposed to be, and we all know what it is. That's how we stay together. If I'm out of place out there in Edgewood and I have to get whooped by 4 or 5 white boys, and guess what my people go to the east side? That's what your ass did. What the hell you doing out there? Just like when y'all come to the east side. It's the same way. But we get along in proper environments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Homer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Council, I'd like to say one more thing before I leave. I'm
Yes, sir.
gonna rush out of here. But, Philip Crawford, 613 West 5th Street. But I'd like to pose a serious question. If we have no housing authority, what are we gonna do with all these families we displace? If we have no commission, how are we voting on this with no one to handle the repercussions of this if it does go through? If it goes through, we don't have the resources to handle it. We don't even have somebody in place. Do you know when I filed my business here in Coffeyville, I got sent to 3 different buildings all around, and this lady right here can vouch for me, Miss Melissa Carter. I got sent, yeah, Carter, sorry, I couldn't read it. Is that an angle, the light? Miss Carter here, I got sent to 3 different places. Nobody knew where to file the paperwork to start a business in the city of Coffeyville. That's how long it's been. The only business that's left here pretty much is CVR and Walmart, which all they did was move out of the floodplain, or I guess deeper into it. The reality of it is, if we start this process, even if you guys all vote yes, all you're going to do is create a homeless population in the city of Coffeyville. An even higher one, because technically we already have all the ones that break into the abandoned houses and et cetera, et cetera. We know the crowd. But this is a real issue. You're going to have women and children displaced. It's not a bunch of grown men who can fend for themselves and get jobs and just don't want to work. This is the 25-year-old mom with 2 kids, 3 kids, struggling to balance jobs and got to travel to India or Bartlesville for work because companies won't come here no more. What are you going to do then when you create that problem? Then what happens? That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, let me just say thank you all for being here tonight. We really do appreciate all the time it's taken and everyone's attendance and that's shown up and really voiced their concerns, positive or negative, more negative towards the implementation of this. So, what does the commission want to do on this?
May I say
Yes,
something,
yes,
please?
absolutely.
Okay. As a commissioner and an elected representative of the city of Coffeyville, I have to look at the big picture, and I have to do what I believe is best for the residents of our community. Sometimes what's best for the city at large steps on the toes of our individual citizens, and that is where we, as a commission, have got to find a balance. We have known CVR has been exploring the possibility of expanding south for several months. Expansion would seem to be good for the city in many ways, because any entity with plans of new construction means adding to our city's tax base, while at the same time, hopefully, providing more jobs. CVR is one of the area's largest employers, and their employees are well compensated. The city has been and is supportive of CVR, and we want to help them remain successful. But we also have our fellow citizens to consider. Many have lived in their homes for several generations. They have maintained their houses to their liking and have no desire to leave their home. As for the apartments, some have been there a short time, while others have longevity there. But they all see the complex as their home. Though the city has no control over the sale of those apartment complexes, we do have concern as to where a large number of our fellow citizens will be able to go to continue their lives in our community. I am generally in favor of CVR's application, but however, at this time, there are many details that still need to be worked out before the application can be approved. From my perspective, the following issues need to be addressed before I would approve the application. There are matters with infrastructure relating to the following city departments: our municipal light and power, our public works, our fire, police, and stormwater. But most importantly is our concern of our citizens, for them and with them, and their safety as they want to remain in their homes. Therefore, at this time, I respectfully move to deny the application, and I encourage CVR to meet with city staff in order to address these items and bring the matter back to the commission at such time as the matters have been properly addressed.
I'll second that.
But I was going to ask, I know we had a movement. I kind of would like everybody.
Well, no, I made the motion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but and then we discussed. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a motion, we've got a second, it's denied. But I do,
No.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, we have to vote, but
Right.
I want to say some stuff too before we get too far along.
Sorry.
Can I see a raise of hands of who the CVR people here are? Okay. It's who I kind of, as I was reading the room, that's who I thought. I haven't met you gentlemen. I'm not really excited about that we've been this long in the process and we haven't had a meeting. I know you've met with our city manager. In reading the room, the checkered shirt with the flannel, what's your name, sir? Yes. Dean, you are the only individual taking notes during the meeting that I see. What are some of your takeaways?
So basically, I'm a civil engineer and I work for Ross Group, so I've been involved with design. I was involved with initial meetings with Mr. Osborne,
Uh-huh.
We met with them to try to address and really make this better. So some of my takeaways are, number one, all the property that CBR wants to build on is their property that they own. The request to rezone this allows them to build this facility, but it also, it's trying to enhance the separation between residential and industrial developments. Because your zoning code has specific requirements, which we have, for the most part, met, with the exception of a few. Secondly, CBR is going through great expense to put this building 4 feet above ground, so it's not the flood zone. So we're not truncating or trying to usurp any of the authority that the federal government has through FEMA to build it. And, you know, let me look at that.
Kind of putting you on the spot.
And so there's been a lot of talk about flooding.
Uh-huh.
Currently, there's a consent order for EPA for water quality.
Mhm.
All those detention ponds, all the filtration, sediment collection that CDR has gone through great expense to install is going to greatly help the issues with water quality that the city's currently under consent order for. So, with the addition of helping the stormwater runoff, yes, it's in a floodplain. It's protected by a levee that floods. There's not much you can do. But detaining that water is not going to make the situation worse. And the other pollution-related, most chemical facilities, petrochemical facilities in the country are under more regulations by the environmental protection.
Excuse me, we can't hear you out here.
Any other
No.
facility in the country, and there would be an operation that would violate it. So that's kind of my.
1 second.
Y'all asked him to speak,
Yeah.
and we can't hear him out there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, do the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think he
Get
was
up to
done.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that recorded in the minutes, or is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it'll
It
be
is.
on the
Recorded
video.
in the
You'll be able to hear it in the video.
All
Yeah.
right, cool.
My other questions for you, Mr. Vance, I watched the video several times from the planning and zoning meeting, and I noticed in your presentation you mentioned that you were meeting with the stakeholders. I didn't hear that tonight, but do you consider these people out here to be the stakeholders?
Community, yes, but as mentioned, they don't own the property, they don't decide on the project, you all decide on the project.
Okay. Have you met with me?
No, I was led to believe that this is exactly how we're supposed to proceed.
Okay.
Therefore, I did proceed that way.
Very good. Okay.
You all is us all together.
I believe that an effort of this magnitude, and it would have amazing impact, and it's good. But you need to identify your stakeholders. You need to speak with them. Everybody's seen what happened to Tyson up in Tonganoxie. Kind of came in over the night, and it didn't work. And they're a huge company as well. We've got to respect the people that it's affecting. I could get on a soapbox and speak all night, but yeah, this is as it is written up right now, and it is Minnie Emery did a wonderful job. She had it all written out. I'm kind of just speaking from the heart, but we have so many different criteria that need to be addressed that it's not good the way it is, and I think there's a disconnect in the timeline. I don't see First Street being vacated, and this is me just pulling out of my perspective, for at least a year. So I don't know why the petition was filed now if we're that far down the road. I don't know why we got to worry about mamas and kiddos looking for a place to live. Not that I don't care about the guys too, but if we're that far down the road, why are we doing this right now? Why are we not finding a solution before we do it? So I'm not against CVR. I want, as Mrs. Martin, the school counselor, came up here, we've got to find a solution that works for everybody. But right now, we're not at that point. So we got to figure it out. Sardis Church, I've been meeting with, not with you, sir, but people in your congregation for a year now, you know, because there's a concern. And yeah, there's things that need to be addressed. So.
Agreed. Well said.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I think that Mr. Carlos that was talking earlier, I think he said something that was very key. We don't know what your budget is at Coffeyville Resource, but I know that you are a multi-billion-dollar company. You're pumping fluids all over the place. I know that what's left of the east side, you could buy the whole east side, and it wouldn't hurt your budget a bit.
At a fair price.
Why not buy the whole thing? Give us an opportunity. Give us now a new church. You can build a new church with no problem. They now have to find a location. They have to figure out how they're going to come up with money to build the facility. When you can build it for them and move them. You know yourself, there have been great companies all over this United States of America that have relocated entire communities. And I don't think it's going to hurt the stockholders that much if you all would relocate.
Okay.
Build us new homes. Okay, you take the value of my property. I don't expect for you to build me a $200,000 home if I live in a $50,000 home. I don't expect that, but at least put me in a new home. You can do that. And all you guys are just the representatives for the company. You don't own and you do not run the company. But I think you all need to talk to somebody, and I think you said a tremendous word. I appreciate you, Commissioner. I really appreciate it. I really do. And I appreciate you, ma'am, and what you said. Coffee Resources is beneficial to this city. It can be very beneficial, but don't hurt us in the process.
Yes.
I apologize.
So,
just
no,
just
don't
to nose
apologize.
me and I do talk. When we go to look at the resolutions, when we get to that point to look at housing and things like that, let us not do what they did to the new housing development that was built out on South Walnut. Those homes built were supposed to be for low-income housing. But once they move in and in paying the rent what they pay each month, they have been told that they have to wait 15 years before they can purchase their home. And then the amount that has been put forward will not go towards the purchase. So let's not do that, okay?
Yes.
I mean, transportation, we don't have it. Some of the transportation that we have around Coffeyville, I wouldn't ride in it. So we don't have transportation. We need apartments. These families need opportunity, because just because I don't live on the east side, it still affects me because I am a part of the east side. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. So for those of you, we're going to take a little break after this is over, so that for the people that want to leave, they can leave, and we can just take a breather for a second. But for those that want to stay, we actually do have a resolution on here. Okay, it's number 5 in your bullet in your deal, and it's to establish a housing committee for the city, which we haven't had. Okay, so Our city manager, that a lot of people give a hard time to, has worked diligently on a strategic plan for Coffeyville through 2030 on housing for the city of Coffeyville and how we can invest back into the city by building new houses. And some of the information that he can provide to this group is staggering, that in the last 10 years, we have built 0 new houses in this town. 0.
We see it.
So
It's not staggering. We see it every day. Let's deal with that, and then CVR can say.
I don't
10 years
disagree.
down the road, let's
and
do
that's exactly where we're headed. So I just wanted to share that with you. For those that want to be involved, you know, many, I see Mr. Homer at meetings quite often, but many of the people here tonight, this is the first time I've ever seen you at a meeting. So, you know, get involved. Come to these meetings. Be a voice, right? That's what we want. That's what makes our community strong. Doesn't matter what color we are. We can all come together as one group. I know Mr. Homer said the east side, the west side. We're all Coffeyville. We're all Coffeyville, and somebody said it, Coffeyville strong. Let's stay that way, right? That's how we succeed.
So I do want to add to the conversation a little bit. So I don't want CVR to think that they are not supported here, because this, and
Absolutely
I don't
not.
want to speak for my other commissioners, but CVR is extremely important to this community. And I would like to see them be able to do what they want to do as far as the expansion goes. It's got to be done the right way, and there's still way too many questions around this particular petition for me to be comfortable in saying, yes, we need to go forward with this. So I think it's something that can be brought back after a lot of this is resolved, and I hope you guys don't give up on this project, but there's just a lot that has to be addressed, and there needs to be a dialogue established with a lot of these folks in this room.
Because to your, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm getting texts from Kansas City, Tulsa, and all over. So there's a conversation about some Section 8 vouchers that were to be given to the families that were in the apartments. Do we know anything about that?
So we're really not involved in that, in the housing issue with the apartments over there. That's a private entity. As far as the city goes, we don't really have a say-so in what goes on in that.
Yes, sir. Okay. So these are coming out of Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Kansas City is where this text is coming from. So
They
didn't
would
hear
be
from quite a few. So
coming from HUD.
from HUD.
Yes.
So will you all be a part of that matter, or do the families just have to figure it out on their own?
HUD will be available, but it would be through HUD, the notification, and they're in the process of what they're seeing now. Section 8 is a federal government program, so what they're seeing is issued from the federal government. So we're not in part of that, but we can try to get numbers
Yes, sir.
and contact.
So can we do that as a community rather than individuals?
Yes.
And I think that'll make it easier for all of us if we
Yes.
promise the city we will do that as a community.
Yes, we
In
will.
Okay,
fact-
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Pastor.
much.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor Morgan.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Zanville Tate again, 702 East 4th. I have a question for the representatives of CVR in regards to the apartment complexes. They've purchased them. I'd like to know what their plans are for them. Are they going to turn them into contractor housing? Because I know they have a real problem with contractors when they have the big turnarounds out there. Or are they going to knock them down and turn them into parking lots?
I have to defer that to them if they care to answer.
If they can answer.
One, I don't even know that we have purchased it, so I can't confirm that. And two, I don't know any plans. That's not, I'm only for the project, I'm managing this project, so.
Chris Hodges was here last week. He sold the apartment. Yeah, they sold it. He sold it. The woman said that the dude here last week, Chris Hodges, is the one that sold the apartment. The manager of the Cleveland apartment is the one that told me to come last Tuesday because he had sold the apartment to CVR. They are purchased.
Yes.
And bought. It ain't no guessing no more. The apartments are over. They have bought it. Chris Hodges, the dude from last week that I called out, bought it, sold it to us. It's a wrap.
Okay.
My understanding is that they're
got vouchers, they got housing. So who's ever on
Okay, we need to get back on
Yeah,
task.
we got business
So-
to take care of.
Does anyone have any more?
It sounds like maybe we need to have another public forum on housing. So let's stick to the zoning right now,
Right.
and then we got a whole nother
Very good.
issue to address, so we'll do it.
Okay, so we already have a motion made and a second, so we're ready to vote on this one.
Can you repeat the motion, please, Commissioner Van Oster?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Well, so all you have to
All you
do
gotta do is
is
read that.
Marie.
Just so
Okay,
it's
I know,
recorded
I know.
correctly.
Yeah.
But I think I respectfully move to deny the vacations of certain streets and alleys located around CVR's potential expansion at this time.
And I'll second.
Okay. Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Mayor Bauer to deny vacations of certain streets and alleys located around CVR's potential expansion. Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Abstain.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll get started. Move into resolution number R-20-62, a resolution to approve supplemental request from KDOT for third-party engineering services on 11th and Willow Geometric Improvement Project. Superintendent Thomas Osborne will make, Engineering Superintendent Thomas Osborne will make comments.
Thank you again, Mayor and Commissioners. This supplemental agreement is with is a three-party agreement with KDOT and BD Consultants. It was part of the 11th and Willow project. We all know it's significantly longer than originally planned. This was for the addition of 46 total working days to the project, largely for essentially we added a phase 3 to try to help with business owners to keep businesses operating as efficiently as possible during that section of during the second part. So we essentially added a whole other phase, and that's why these additional days were added.
Podium mic's off.
Mic's off. Oh, I am sorry.
Thank you.
So again, that's why the additional days were for essentially adding that phase 3 to keep the businesses in as much of as reduced impact as possible, especially during that time was during the turnaround. So that was one of the key factors that why we recommended adding those days. These days were added to the contract, and so they are entitled for profit to be added for the inspector to be added for this section. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
So $6,000 on the city portion of this? 80/20, right?
I believe so. That's the way KDOT says that there's still funds on the KDOT side. Again, this is KDOT. It's 80/20 up to $1 million match from KDOT. And so that KDOT was a little unclear on exactly
where
we are on that. But that's what they indicated was they were supposed to be underneath it, so it'd still be the 80.
That
Still the 80/20.
When it comes out of street fund?
It would come out of the street transportation sales tax. That's
Okay.
correct.
So is this the last we're going to see of this project?
Yeah, good
Well,
question.
there'll be a final, whether KDOT owes us money or we owe KDOT money.
Okay.
Because how the geometric improvement projects work is they figure everything up and then we owe them, we send in a check at the very beginning of the project. So it's not a reimbursement for us, it's the other way around.
Right.
So for this, we've sent them in, and I don't have the number that we sent in, but there's supposed to be still funds available for KDOT side, so.
I do have one concern that's been brought to my attention, and I kind of went by there myself. When you are heading south on Willow, and you come to Willow and 11th, and you want to make a right turn, it is hard to see if there's anybody coming where you can go ahead and turn on a red light. The bushes in front of the establishment there that used to be Long John's, they're like really out.
Yeah, it's starting to grow out.
Yes, and I not only went by in my car, because I've got a little challenge being short, but I went by in a truck, and it is a little difficult to see. So I didn't know if that's something we can address, or if there were, I thought there were
and have code
things-
enforcement double check. They may be starting to grow out because it's
Because you have to pull
it's
up.
essentially vacant right now, so
Right.
they may need to have those bushes trimmed
Right,
back.
right.
So.
Because you eventually have to pull up if you want to try to go, and you are almost on the crosswalk, which, and by the
Right.
time you spin this way, there could be somebody coming from that way. So it's just a suggestion to bring up, to look into
I'll have
that.
code enforcement look at that.
Okay.
And check to see if there's anything we can do, so.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of a side topic, but it's related and kind of triggered my thought when you were talking about the final exchange of money. I don't know that we heard, maybe I missed it, I have missed things, but as far as going over on days and being fined, do we have an amount on that yet?
It's still all in KDOT's process, so we don't have any. I don't
So
have any
when they
information on that.
present to us what the
It'll all
final
be
exchange
factored in
is,
that,
that'll
yep.
be part of it.
Yep.
So they had some of that information in their daily report, right? There towards the end, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say there was some discrepancy, and that's other things. So you have Class 1A Class A damage and Class B damage,
Right,
depending
right,
on
right.
what's part of traffic's infringed on, and so all that goes in, and it's in the daily diaries to try to figure out, I don't know where that's at. I know we were all keeping track of that, but we did lose the inspector at the end of the project, so trying to, the man on site essentially retired. He said he's done.
Okay.
So
we didn't really.
Losing him, that's a little rough.
He basically, he said, I'm retiring, I'm done. He didn't finish out the project, so it's trying to work with BG and get everything finalized out. It's been a little bit more of a headache than normally we would
I think
see.
that project would have made me retire too.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't think I'd leave on that note.
So we really don't know the amount that we're approving here. Can we set a ceiling of 20% on what's given to us here? And if they go over, can we ask them to ask for approval again, or?
I'm not sure how that would work exactly. Like I said, it's three-party agreement. Right now, it would basically, I would say you would, this is my recommendation based on how Kate, I'd look to Paul for exactly what we should do. But basically what you would recommend, this authorization is that, yes, this is, they are due this and everything per contractual. They've performed the agreements. And then it's, when we come back, we can argue with KDOT because it's through KDOT. It's not really BG's fault, yay or nay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'll be allowed to ask questions. I have a serious question. It's just a quick one.
Yeah.
Why weren't the other businesses considered at the start of this project? Like, I know 46 days, but now we're talking about fines and penalties and stuff.
So-
Why wasn't that factored in?
So this is a state project,
Project.
number one.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
not
a
ours.
state highway, right? Well, so they did, and the businesses were notified that all this was going on at that time as well.
But that was
So-
done through the state, not through the
Not
city.
through the city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a state
I'm
project.
just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
good.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's right. That's
So I
good.
agree.
Yeah.
I'm good with.
Okay.
So if there are no other questions, I'll move to approve resolution R20-62 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner York, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to approve Resolution R-20-62 as presented. Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
No.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Resolution number R-20-63, a resolution to approve change order number 1 for the 2020 intersection and drainage improvement project. Thomas Osborne will make comments.
Thank you again, Mayor Commissioners. This is be change order number 1 for the drainage improvements with Rick Schaefer Construction, or RSC Construction. This was for some additional quantities and kind of changes of the boundaries for the Parkview and the First in Ohio, right there at the grade school. When we survey these and do all this, we have at least one winter. So some of the issues arise, I think, from going through the winter cycle, as well as when you get out there and you start saw cutting, you're like, well, this is a little low here, and we got spots. So now's the time to take care of it. So we had them expand that out. This is just a quantity change order for those two projects. First in Parkview was largely due to so as a lot of people know, we have some drainage issues in town. That's why we do these projects. A lot of that's due to overlaying curb and gutter. We had the overlaid curb and gutter, the overlay, pop off of the curb and gutter. So now the whole drainage that was designed with that overlay in, no longer, it flipped the direction for a section. So that's why there was a section there added to Parkview, and then like the Ohio Street, which is probably the largest portion of this, was the stopping motion for the buses, the trash trucks, anything like that. It looked like it is either rutted back farther or than originally thought, so we're trying to connect those up and make it a finished project, so we're not going back in there next year trying to do something else. So that's where those came from.
Questions or comments?
How many more of these have they got left to do?
They've completed, I believe, construction on Candace and Pacific, and then I haven't been by I've been working on the other stuff that we've heard tonight, so I haven't been by to see exactly where they're at, but I believe they're working towards, I believe the water department's at third and Grant right now. And then we have to get a final. There's some issues on First and Roosevelt with some, we're not sure why they were missing on the original survey, but some utilities on the original survey on part of the issue. And then just kind of spacing with the sizing of the stormwater pipe on the First and Roosevelt, which is largely stormwater stuff, so.
And then they're doing another one there on 10th and...
10th and Camden, I
Camden.
believe, is wrapping up. I'm not
Okay,
sure
it looked
exactly
like
where
it
they are.
today.
If it's not, it may be done and then cured right now. I've been primarily focused on other things and have not had a chance to swing by, so.
No, these are
Thank you,
good.
Tom.
These are good. Thank you.
Any other questions? If none, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R-20-63 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to approve Resolution R-20-63 as presented. Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Tom.
Resolution R-20-64, a resolution establishing the Housing Community Development Department and Housing Development, Community Development Director position for the city of Coffeyville. Mark Hall will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, I know it's been a long evening, so I will say as this develops in the future, if the commission should approve what we're going to discuss, we'll do a more formal presentation to the community. But to explain, the city of Coffeyville, has addressed in a way housing, but the intention is to create a housing department that will address all the housing needs of Coffeyville. It is not strictly designed for low or very low income, and it's not specifically designed for middle or high income. It will involve all the dimensions of housing. It is one of those that, should the commission wish to create housing in this position, we'll basically try to be a one-stop shop. At one point, we will discuss with the developers to invest in Coffeyville. That is one of those, not to say it is strictly for middle income, it is to sit there and say that very low and low income facilities or structures or apartments, it is attractive to investors. And that is something that we will communicate going forward. A lot of people look at low income and very low income that is not profitable. There are many programs through HUD. There's many tax credit programs in this that makes it very attractive to invest in low-income housing. So we'll address that, but at the same time, we'll address others to, one, build in Coffeyville, make it attractive for developers for middle income. And then, of course, we hope that leads to other investments in housing. But what I'll be here tonight and cutting this down is to start this process. I know I'll have to come to the commission at that time and present a budget. It is that if the commission should approve the starting a housing department, there are certain things that we plan to do, why we're in the process of looking for the position of a director, and that is to go and start discussions with USDA. And one of the programs that we discussed was the Mutual Self-Help Program, which is designed for low and very low income. But it is to say that Coffeyville does see the need. We haven't had any, as far as new housing units built since 2010. So I will cut it short. Is to this and not go along is The idea of creating the housing department, it is for the citizens of Coffeyville, and it is not based on your income. It is to sit there and providing opportunity for outside investment to develop in Coffeyville, and that covers all dimensions of housing. So I'll leave it kind of at that.
Yep.
And with your approval of the resolution, that will establish the housing department, and it will establish that position, and then I will come directly with the budget for your approval. As we go forward, any programs that we adopt or utilize will be brought to the city commission. And there will be some grant programs and these kind of things that the commission will have to take formal action on for those programs to progress. So it's a development in progress, but we are going to throw everything that we can at housing.
Sounds
So-
good.
So I believe from some of the information you gave us on, in the meeting we had here a while back on the housing, so in order for us to even be considered for some of these grant opportunities, this is a requirement of some of those
Yes,
grants that
we will have
actually
a
do
housing
a-
department and
Yes.
director,
Yep.
and those are. It is, and I know I've brought up, there is a separate, and that could lead in someday, that's usually under HUD, which falls under the jurisdiction, is kind of like the library. We would oversee, but that is a housing authority. That is through HUD. HUD that is eventually creates housing, and that is something that we can assist in conversations to that, but it still comes back to the housing is an investment.
Yep.
And that is where tax credits and these kind of programs make it attractive for investors to do. And there is like say we've discussed, there is groups that actually do this. It is low to very low income, and they are construction, and it is they go into the community where they've sold tax credits to investors and come in and build. So we'll just attack everything in going forward, and let the community know that we do hear them, and housing is very important. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
I just,
Yes.
Okay, you said
No.
I'm sorry, he said any questions, and I couldn't wait.
You go ahead, go ahead.
I was just curious, like, if you develop a housing authority, would your current code inspection or code enforcement department fall under your housing authority?
No, the city in a lot of these programs, it requires code enforcement and building inspection will always remain under city, but there is a lot of these programs that require us to have that, just to sit there and participate in any grant funding. So,
this is strictly, I'm just asking as a contractor.
yeah.
This is strictly on the aspect of being eligible for grants and tax write-offs and et cetera, et cetera. This is essentially not like a housing authority.
No,
It's just
no, this
development
is,
of a commission panel type deal for housing authority.
there's certain things that there would be to look at is a board created for this, that the director, this is establishing a position, and what we plan to do is work with HUD. We plan to work with, and there's many programs in HUD, USDA, Kansas Rural Housing Commission, the Department of Commerce, Kansas Department of Commerce. All these agencies, we hope to and develop that if you come in and you're an investor, and you want to invest in low-income housing, it is one of those that we would provide the programs that would make you profitable to build those in Coffeyville. And we put together ways that it expands our low-income housing to the upper income housing. It's just getting, I guess, having some place to go to resource that would be for the development of housing in a one-stop shop. So if you're a first-time home buyer, there's programs through USDA, there's programs through the state of Kansas. But if you came in and wanted to buy your first home, we would be able to sit there and say, these are the programs, these are things that we can help you with.
So I'm a little lost, Mark, because you went a couple different directions. I've
Yeah.
been a contractor for 8 years now.
Yes.
So I'm a little curious, in every other city that I've done work in, the code department and the housing authority is all one big thing, right?
Okay.
You have to go to them and ask for permission to build. Are you gonna be about permission to build and spec homes type deal? Or are you gonna be about assisting in the purchasing of a home? Because you kind of went both directions.
Well, I'm just saying that as far as the building inspection and code enforcement department, those will operate separately. They'll still be here, and that requirement
Those
will still
already
be.
exist.
They do.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, at the creation of this, what is this? This is only just to make you eligible for grants, et cetera, et cetera.
That's not all it's for, but that's a piece of it, so.
Is putting
yeah.
together that, we'll just say it addresses housing and the development of housing.
This just gives you permission to start developing this commission that you want to develop.
I'm trying to think the best way to answer that.
This is not.
And I understand it. I'm trying to think the best way.
This is intended to be a one-stop shop where you go for all the information you need if you want to develop, build a home, purchase a home, or rehab a home potentially. All be in one location, so you don't have to go around town to 3 different buildings to figure out
Like
where
you
you need to
said,
go.
yeah, like you referred to earlier.
Yeah,
And that's
a
the-
big part
the
of
best
grant
way is
opportunities too.
It also, the contractors here in town, like yourself, you can imagine with the investors wanting to build, then it creates jobs for contractors in the use of local contractors, so.
A lot of the grant opportunities also require that you do have code enforcement and you are enforcing the right codes and all that, right? So, yeah, that's a big piece of it as well, so.
That's a good, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
But anytime that, if there's any questions, as going forward, we're gonna start creating this so we can address it, so you're always welcome to drop in.
so the opinion, I think, of the majority of the board or all of the board has been, we have to address our housing in this community. And if we don't, then everything else we're doing is not gonna matter going forward because the housing is what's killing us right now as a community. So it has to be addressed.
Yep.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move to approve Resolution R-20-64 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maxon to approve Resolution R-20-64 as presented. Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye. Authorization to award CDBG CV Economic Development Grants to qualifying local businesses. Stephanie Richardson will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, tonight we're bringing before you the list of businesses that have qualified and been eligible for the CDBG CV grant funding that we received from the state. This is a federal fund program that runs through the state. The purpose is to provide economic development grants to qualifying local businesses through the state of Kansas Department of Commerce. We applied for this grant funding, if you'll remember, back in May of 2020, and we applied for a $300,000 grant. We found out in June we were awarded $117,000 for this particular purpose. So we took applications through Montgomery County Action Council, and we took applications on their website through July 19th, and then those were sent to the Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission for their review to make sure that the applicants were eligible. They also processed all the documentation that's required for the grant. Those businesses were required to submit low to moderate income certifications on each of the employees that they were going to retain, provide a current DUNS number, documentation to substantiate the eligible expenses for the grant, and then verification that there were no duplication of funds. So they weren't using, let's say, rent expense for two different types of state or federal funding. The city's application, our original application, based our awards on the number of employees that they were able to retain. So using that philosophy, we've taken the total grant award and divided it by the low to moderate income employee numbers that were provided from each of the eligible applications. And that equates to an award of $2,907 per employee. At your desk, there is a list of the application, or a list of those that were eligible and that we're looking to award this evening. I can read through each of the applications. These were, we're asking to award a grant amount up to the amount that's listed, provided that they turn in the supporting documentation to substantiate those. Now keep in mind, once all of that's turned in, which Susan at Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission has those documents, that will then go to the state. It goes through 2 more reviews to make sure that everything is good with the state, and then they'll send those checks back to the city, and then the city disperses those to the businesses. So
Good.
kind of the process we have ahead of us.
So even if this is approved tonight, this will have to go back through
It goes
Susan
back
and
to
then
the-
back to the state.
It goes
and then-
back to the state, and then
Do we
there
know
are
what
2
kind of
levels
time
of.
frame they're looking at on that?
I don't know. It's going to depend on the state's process.
I'm a little confused about them showing proof for this amount. So I
They
know
have to provide invoices. They've
No.
had to have provided those already.
That's what I'm getting at.
Mhm.
So those have already been provided,
Right,
correct?
right.
And that's how we're getting this amount. So they don't have to go through and find new invoices, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
They have provided invoices up to at least this amount,
okay,
is my understanding with the applications that are on here.
okay.
Susan has gone through that process and determined that through her review, these would meet the qualifications of the state. So then they go to the state will review them 2 more times, and then they give the final okay.
Okay. Do you know if we're past the point of things changing on a daily basis?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a concrete point that we can actually move forward.
Yes.
And this will expend all of those funds that were allocated for that?
This is set to expend the entire 117,000.
And all 13 businesses will benefit.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
And again, we based it on the total number of LMI jobs that we're able to retain, which between these 13 businesses, there were 40.25 jobs. So that times the 2,907 is the 117,000.
LMI is low to moderate income, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes. We had ABC, Coffeyville's Christian Preschool and Childcare with 7 LMI jobs and a grant award of $20,349. Alderman Acres Manufacturing, LMI of 4 employees with a grant award of $11,628. Bandits and Bling Antiques, 1 LMI job for $2,907. Blue Boots of Kansas, 2 LMI employees for $5,814. Salito Lindo Salon, or El Charo for 5 LMI employees for $14,535. Hong Kong Delight, 4 employees with $11,628. Lanning's Downtown Grill, 6 employees for $17,442. Mario's Barber and Beauty, 1 employee with $2,907. Simply Southern Boutique is 2 employees with $5,814. Southeast Kansas Healthcare, 1 employee for $2,907. Sunflower Soda Fountain, 2.25 employees for $6,534. Supreme Food Services, or Hog Heaven, 3 employees for $8,721. And the Donut Palace with 2 employees for $5,814. Again, they are subject to the state's review. This also gives authorization to the City of Coffeyville check signers to be able to distribute those funds. We're required by the state to be able to get those back out of our account within 3 days. So this gives us the authorization to those check signers to be able to get those payments out in the required timeline. Once that happens, those checks would then go on the next appropriation register for your approval.
And these were all basically federal funds that went to the state, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah. So it's not city funds. Just to
Right,
clarify
right.
that, it's not
Absolutely,
city
yes.
funds going out, it's relief funds. So-
Yeah, but they are CDBG funds, so they're required to go through the
Correct.
city for,
Didn't have those done.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? I will move to approve the grant awards as recommended.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Bannister to approve the grant awards as recommended. Commissioner York?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster?
Aye.
Mayor Bauer?
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon?
Aye.
Thank you. I
Thank
also
you,
want to
Stephanie.
thank
Stephanie.
Montgomery County Action Council and Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission for all
Yeah,
their work
definitely.
Yes.
Yep.
getting this done as well.
Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
City managers report.
Mayor Commissioners, thank you for the meeting tonight, and thank you for listening to the public. I know that is something that you always strive to do. I'd like to thank staff for all their work. We are going into the fall season, and especially in just a couple of weeks. But we are going to be busy in trying to accomplish and work preventative maintenance during the winter. That way we can always stay ahead. When it comes spring next year, we'll take advantage. There is some reorganization that will go on in the next couple of weeks, and we've talked about. It is, I'm excited. Of course, some things have changed, and he's still here.
And we're glad to have it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blame it on Chuck. He contributed to it, but it is one of those, staff is, and doing great things, and we are still always moving forward. Customer services is our primary goal, and I want to thank, there's a lot of projects that are being discussed, and I know by electric and other departments, and they continually look for grants. So I'd just like to thank all of staff for what they're doing, and if there's any questions by the city commission, I'd be glad to answer those.
Comments from the commissioners and staff? Good meeting
We don't
tonight.
have, yes, I echo that. Very good meeting tonight. It was good to see the attendance and
It was.
look forward to how we can move forward to benefit both.
So I received a call today, and I know we had with the recent rains, we've had a regrowth of grass quickly. But in driving around, I've noticed it too. So we've got some weed lots that are popping back up again, and so I know the code enforcement guys are busy and they're out working hard, but it's something
I
that we need
think,
to make sure we stay on
Thomas-
top of as we go
Thomas
forward.
mentioned that we
Yeah.
had 200?
Yeah.
200 notices today.
Well,
It
so we
is-
went through a period, where the grass quit growing.
Yeah,
and
and
of course, then it rains and.
And
right
then
back
it
down,
starts
but-
again, but
yeah.
we're also keeping in mind, we're trying to, in which they are, is, I want to say, we're trying to move as fast as we can, but being customer friendly. It's trying to get that balance that we don't move too fast where we don't notice some, but we're kind of learning as we go that some situations, we're trying to get them across the line to get it done instead of strictly there's something wrong and we're trying to notice that.
Right.
But, we'll get this. We know those who are habitual,
Well, and
weed mowing.
I asked the question during the warrant register portion, just because when you look at what we spend as a community on weed lot mowing every year, it's a tremendous amount of money.
It is.
And so
and we'll
I
never get
wonder
it
what
back.
other communities do in regards to that. Do they have the same issues? Are there other solutions out there that we haven't seen
Bill-
yet that may work better for our community than what we're trying to do with this?
We've tried, and this is looking at, we can't add the mowing. The only thing that we can do is sit there and put a lien.
Exactly.
But we're trying, always to look, and it just prevents us, because you'd love to be able to attach a water bill, and if you don't pay your water bill and this stuff, then your services are cut off, which then you would pay your, it is something that's a constant battle, and I think, that's part of our customer service.
It is.
Is trying to get them
But
to
it is a
actually
big
mow.
expense for the city every year. I mean, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just this year, it's every year that we put
There
out a
is-
whole lot of money just on mowing grass and
There is some that it is, we basically mow all the time.
Yep.
And we do have some
Well,
outside.
So the fees were raised on that years ago, and they have been continuously, I think, just
Mhm.
as to try and deter, because we had, at one time, it was so cheap to do that. It was
Yeah.
actually cheaper to have the city come mow it than it was to hire somebody to come and do it. So
Yep.
that was addressed through the fines on it, or the penalties on it for having the city mow your yard. But apparently, it's not enough of a deterrent yet, so.
We have some
Yeah.
outside property owners that basically, because they're going to try to flip their property, and usually that's caught by the treasurer's office, the register of deeds and that. It's usually caught if there's a lien. But there is a way that avoids that and the sale transpire, and that's the sad thing, because outside ownership has figured out a way to sit there and say that instead of mowing and hiring it done, they just let the city mow it, and then all they're in it for is to flip the property.
Yeah.
And so we have that, and we just had a gentleman just a couple months ago from, I believe, Kansas City area that is notorious for coming in and making promises to people and investment and this stuff, and he does not mow his property. So we'll keep trying to address it.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Any other comments?
Yeah, so I have first of all, if people go home that were here tonight and they watch this on the YouTube channel, or I guess that's the only way they can do it because it wasn't live. I appreciate everybody being here. Everybody was passionate. It was very well maintained. Everybody kept their cool, and I feel like it was a good, I almost said movie, good meeting. The other deal is kind of a twofold issue. Mr. Bradshaw, I'm going to ask you, and I think I already know the answer to this. So I had a situation with the bulk day trash pickup on the 24th. My last Monday. I didn't have any glass in my trash, but now I have glass all down Westwood Drive and especially in front of my driveway. I don't mind going out there with a scoop and sweeping it up and picking it up myself, but I was kind of curious as to how the glass got there, and obviously something in the trash truck as it was grinding down the stuff I put in dropped the glass and then continued to go down the street. The day it happened, I was leaving, and on First Street, that's where I'm getting to you. So on First Street, I seen the street sweeper working. And I thought, I'm not even going to make a deal of it. I won't even call. The street sweeper's going. Now, I think I know this. There's only certain streets because of availability and it being able to, there's only certain streets he covers. Is that correct?
This time of year here, because my street sweeper operator is also the one doing the striping.
Uh-huh.
He was out, I believe, a total of 3 of these. There was some isolated concerns that came in, and he was directed to go out and take care of them areas.
Okay.
We ended up, I think there was an 8-hour day one week, and then the following week he was out for 16 hours, 2 days.
Yeah.
We do have that problem periodically. We do get calls on that where the trash company does drop debris
Uh-huh.
out of the truck. If we get calls, we notify the contractor, and
Okay.
Because they are responsible for picking that debris up in the street if they're the ones dropping.
Okay. Very good. All right. I feel a little weird even saying anything because it's not, I mean, it's no big deal for me to go out and sweep it up. But there's a lot of people in the community that don't have that ability. And when we chose to extend the contract with this trash company, I talked to them about their customer service. And I know it hasn't been brought to them yet, but to me, in a way, that's kind of customer service too. And I know that if you're running a big piece of machinery and you're dropping stuff, you may not always see, you know, what your truck's leaving behind. But
The problem we're seeing is with the type of trucks they're using and the arm they're using,
Mhm.
they'll lift the poly card up and they dump it in a bigger hopper. Some residents don't use bags, which is where they throw the debris in the poly card.
Mhm.
Some of that debris does not make it into the hopper, or debris will stick in the tote. As they're bringing it down, it'll flop out on the ground. That's mainly what we see. And we call it up and we see the area we're seeing it in, and we request them to go back and clean it up. Because we're responsible for picking it up and hauling it off.
So the right solution would be if you see that to call it in and let staff know.
You either get a hold of the city clerk.
Mhm.
That's probably the best course to call the city clerk. She can get the area, she can relay the message to me, and we can call. We have a direct contact with the public service, he's local. Pretty much local, I want to say. But he does answer all the calls. We don't go through the customer service line that you normally have to go through if they miss your trash.
Yep.
We have another resource to call, and we just get the area. And we've even taken photos and emailed it to them, so they know exactly what we're dealing with. But, you know, we're gonna ask that they call it in, and we'll get it on the contract.
Thank you.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, thank you. Anything else? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands? Thank you.
Thank you.